Merry Christmas, everyone. My name is Max, and I'm the pastor of youth here at Granville Chapel, and it is a gift to be with you all here this evening. I'm sure, regardless of how either any of us come in today, I think we can say that Christmas Eve carries weight. It's significant. It touches something deep within us. For some of us, it brings comfort and some familiarity. For others of us, it amplifies grief or loneliness. And still for some, it's both at once. We arrive here carrying things we don't always name, but often can rise to the surface this time of year. Longings we've learned to manage, losses we've learned to live with, and questions we often keep tucked away. Some of us are here because we already follow Jesus and trust him. Some of us are here because we're curious. Some of us because it's a tradition we are our family values. And still some because we were invited. Either a welcome invitation or one we just said yes to because we love the person who invited us. Wherever you land, you're welcome here. Tonight is about where true hope lies, and it's not about pretending things are fine in our lives or around us. Because before Christmas was ever good news, it was first an interruption into real lives, real fear, and real longing. It is not a season for rushing past the ache within us. It's a season that dares us to sit in it. It's a season that dares us to recognize it, to trace it to its roots, and to look to the one that I have come to believe all those aches point to. And maybe that's the most honest starting point for all of us tonight. Longing and ache. That sense that something is off around us. That something in us is unresolved. That we long for healing, for meaning, for nearness, for what the Bible would call shalom or wholeness, even if we don't yet know what we'd call it ourselves. The invitation of Advent is this: don't numb that ache. Don't silence it, but pay attention to it. Acknowledge it, feeling the longing for something deeper, better, and fuller. Because the story we just read out, we remember, we sit in, and make room for tonight, claims that the God who created the whole cosmos and knit each of us together intimately not only sees the ache, not only has an ache of his own that is deeper than ours, but that those places of messy longing are the very places he has always sought to arrive. So the text we had read out this evening is actually not where I want to start, because the Christmas story doesn't begin with a birth. It is the culmination of hundreds of years of promise and longing. For generations, the Jewish people waited for rescue, for justice, for God to act mightily. A people living in violent, oppressive occupation under the Roman Empire. They had scriptures and stories of old, promises, prayers worn thin from repetition over hundreds of years. The Jewish people lived with a deep ache, an ache shaped by exile, by occupation, by oppression and silence. From the shepherds in the fields to the religious leaders, the Pharisees and teachers of the law, the marginalized and the exiled, people were yearning for a saving one, a rescuer, a king from the line of David that would free them by force and sit eternally on what they thought would be an eternal earthly kingdom. And this longing wasn't abstract. It was embodied. It was raw. They felt it. It was political. It was personal. It was painful. And maybe you recognize something like this longing. A longing for things to be made right. The longing for things to be different, for relief, meaning, and wholeness. The longing for God to actually show up. Like really show up. Not eventually, not someday, but now in this moment. And it's precisely into the midst of that longing that we see God arrive. This is the good news of Christmas, that the answer to all humanity's longing is finally here, though it comes in a place and a form so ordinary and so vulnerable that not many would have likely expected it: a birth. It is worth remembering that the world into which the Prince of Peace was born was neither calm nor quiet. And I think we could make the argument that it was actually more divided, volatile, and dangerous than our own today, if that even seems possible. It can be difficult to connect the chaos of this world we live in with the silent night songs that we often sing around this time of year. The birth of Jesus can at times feel far removed from the noise and anxiety of maybe some of your present realities. But Scripture and history paints a totally different picture. At the largest level, we see a glimpse into the surrounding political reality. In Luke 2, as we just read, Luke tells us, in those days, Caesar Augustus issued a decree that a census should be taken of the entire Roman world, and everyone went to their own town to register. A census is called, and suddenly ordinary families are uprooted. This was a huge flex by Rome, an exercising of oppressive authority and another occasion to tax the people. Joseph and Mary didn't travel from Nazareth to Bethlehem, likely a 6 to 9 day journey on a donkey as a very pregnant woman, 130 kilometers, because it was convenient. They traveled because they were forced to, because powerful people made decisions that rippled down into their ordinary lives. Not to mention Mary is young, likely 14 to 16 years old, scholars believe, and in the late stages of pregnancy, and now required to make a long, uncomfortable journey at the most vulnerable moment of her life. If you know a girl around that age, or there's one in your life, maybe bring them to mind and imagine them going through what Mary is. This is significant. This isn't something small. This is the kind of stress I'm sure many of us in our own ways recognize when circumstances seem to pile up at the worst possible time, when life feels out of control and heavy, like you can't catch a break, very messy and very inconvenient. And it doesn't stop there. We read that when they finally arrive after this long journey, the situation narrows even more. Luke continues, while they were there, the time came for the baby to be born. And she gave birth to her firstborn, a son, and she wrapped him in swaddling clothes and placed him in a manger, because there was no guest room available for them. So they get there, and there's no room. How would you feel? No place that feels safe or dignified for a birth. No place seemingly prepared for what's about to happen. So Luke tells us they stay at the only place offered to them, in the lower part of a home, often translated as a manger, a place where the animals would be brought at night to protect them from theft. You could imagine the smells that these animals would have brought with them. And then it becomes deeply personal. A young, lowly Jewish teen woman goes into labor, far from home, without privacy, without control, without modern-day medical care. I'm sure many of you could tell me, and I believe, that pregnancy is beautiful, but I've heard it isn't often quiet or often clean. It can be loud, it can be exhausting, and it can be messy. Fear, joy, pain, intensity, anticipation. Birth is one of the most vulnerable moments of the human existence for the mother, child, and father. This is most likely not a silent night. What could it look like for God to arrive on a not-so-silent night in your home, with the things your friends and family are going through? Around a packed table at a chaotic family dinner, when it feels like your parents don't understand you and then you're in an argument again. In the wake of your friends or family's health diagnosis. What could it look like for God to arrive in a chaotic moment? A young peasant couple cast into the grand redemptive story of God, with little to qualify them other than an open, willing, and trusting heart that God really is who he says he is. This is intimate. This is vulnerable. This is real life. And this is exactly where God chooses to arrive, right in the middle of the chaos, not in power or in spectacle, but in the vulnerable, deeply ordinary reality of birth. Surrounded by shepherds and magi, witnesses and company no one would have deemed fit for any sort of a king, Jehovah Jireh, the provider, becomes dependent. The God who delivers was delivered himself. Or as Joshua Leventhal, an artist I've had the pleasure of meeting, says so beautifully, the Almighty One becomes breakable. The Infinite confines himself for love. The birth is intimate and ordinary. And yet, in this ordinary, vulnerable, very human moment, the extraordinary holy God is fully present. The King of creation is not kept at a distance and cannot be kept at a distance. And really only few are aware of the reality playing out, the amount of prophecy being fulfilled in this moment. The foretold child has arrived. Prince of Peace, Wonderful Counselor, Everlasting Father, Mighty God, ultimate authority and power chooses ultimate vulnerability for means of salvation. Showing us that God does not stay above, but bends low to be with us, to become like us, in real life, in real chaos, and real mess. Meeting us not only in dramatic, extravagant moments, but also in intimate, ordinary moments where presence matters most. We read in Psalm 23, a poem and prayer from David. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and staff, they comfort me. This is an audacious claim about God, that he would join us in the valley with the offer of presence, comfort, and courage. This is the claim of Christmas. We often want God to airlift us out of our pain, our mess, and our adversity. And sometimes he does, and rightfully so, we call those miracles. But more often, God parachutes in to be near, to comfort, to redeem, to transform, to empower us to walk through, empowered by his light. And I think this fact changes everything. It changes everything for me, at least. Because real healing and redemption, as I'm sure some of us know and have experienced, doesn't come from escape. Escape only lasts so long and leaves wounds to fester and be untouched. True hope is not found in a God too holy to touch pain, but it is found in a God who enters human reality and in doing so transforms it from within. The wonder of Christmas is that the holy God does not remain distant. This is Emmanuel. This is God with us, not above us, not distant from us, but with us in our chaos, our joy, our grief, our unanswered questions drawing near. So, tonight, there's an invitation. The scriptures say, cast all your anxieties on him because he cares for you. For some of us, that feels familiar, maybe too familiar. We've become used to hearing that. For others, maybe it feels uncomfortable. And maybe for others, it actually confronts something in us that feels we need to prove we can do it ourselves. But here's the honest question that tonight places before us. Do you really want to keep looking for peace and overcoming adversity on your own? How is it working out? I know for me it doesn't work. What if this story is more than a tradition? Isn't it tiring looking for peace, joy, and love in things that always seem to fail us? In places that promise to save but leave us emptier than before and more tired, more anxious, more outraged? What if this lowly refugee baby born to a teenage Jewish woman 2,000 years ago really was God coming close to save and restore not just them, but you and me and all of creation? What if God really is who he claims to be, the same God now as he was then? The Prince of Peace still desiring to arrive, still willing to enter the mess, still moving toward creation's ache relentlessly yet tenderly. What if God is not waiting for you to clean yourself up, but simply asking you to make room? To cast your cares does not mean you suddenly believe everything. It simply means you stop carrying it all by yourself. So tonight I want to invite you to try something. To come in touch with your longing and not be afraid of it. Name the thing that feels heavy. The grief, the fear, the question, the exhaustion. And if you're willing, offer it to Jesus. You don't need the right words. You don't need strong faith. You don't need to know what comes next. This story of arrival Luke tells is not one about people reaching up to God or climbing a mountain up to God. It's about God moving toward people in pursuing love. The only kind of love that can truly make a difference. The God who sees, who hears, who understands, who arrives and who stays. The God who is not afraid of what is real. So make room, cast your cares, and pay attention. And maybe you'll discover that God has already come closer than you've ever imagined. In places so ordinary they could be missed, but so profoundly good they change everything. This is what real hope we celebrate together tonight. That the peace we long for, the saving we long for, the joy we long for, the healing we long for is on offer to all who would come and follow the saving one named Jesus, who was born in a manger 2,000 years ago. So I want to go into a time of reflection, a short time. And if you're comfortable, if you would close your eyes with me for a moment. And as we did at the beginning, maybe just begin to take some deep breaths. Some slow, deep breaths. And I just want you to think, what is the longing that arises within you now? What do you long for? Where do you need the arrival of this King offering peace, hope, and joy and purpose? It can be scary to let ourselves feel. To let ourselves actually pull back the curtain and long for something better. Maybe we've become used to the life that we're living. We've become okay with it. But maybe there's one who came towards you before you've ever come towards them. Maybe in this moment, if you have the courage, maybe lift that up to the one who promises to save. And now, where this Christmas can you participate in the bringing of this very same peace, hope, and joy? Maybe family gatherings you're nervous about. Maybe friendships. Maybe workspaces. Where can you be an agent, a conduit of this same God's love? A love that pursues.